Welcome to the Time of the Reason podcast show. We're not looking for ratings. We are not here to support and to create sensationalism. We are not here to entertain. We are here to give due diligence to the pressing human, economic, environmental, political, and social issues that affect humankind. We are here to promote thinking. Now, more than ever, is the time to revive reason. Unless we do so, humankind is riding a one-way runaway train into oblivion. Think about it. We must think. Thank you for listening again to another episode of the Time of the Reason podcast show. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Time of the Reason podcast show. I'm here with my co-host, Dan Ploger, my partner in arms, or partner in crime, intellectual crime. You know, we are here to incite critical thinking and inspire logic and reason, to ask important questions, but also to coax common sense. Today we got a good show. I think they're all good shows, but you know, the fact checkers. Who are these anonymous people? We ask, where are they from? Where do they get their facts from? And how are they funded? And the main thing is to ask listeners and viewers, thank you for coming back, is if these fact checkers are not giving us credible facts or information, then why are we listening to them? Let's open with that, Dan. Give us your thoughts on that. And yeah, the information age, right?
Well, I guess I'd go a little bit further on the opening question. I'd just say, why do we listen to them, period? Why would anybody listen to somebody who claims to be an authority on truth?
That's a great question. We could answer that right there, but let's dig into that a little bit. You know, we have half a dozen or more fact checkers out there. And a point you had raised with me several weeks ago when we were talking about this conversation in particular was, who funds them? Where do they get their money from? And what's their real message? So, and like you said, why are we listening to anybody when it comes to the truth? Why aren't we listening to our own common sense?
I guess one of the reasons I found this to be such a dumbfounding subject is I don't understand any of it. I don't understand why there would be such a thing as a fact checker. But I was astounded. I did a little search on the internet to find out, what does it take to be a fact checker? Well, nothing really. You get hired by, it's considered as a form of journalism, kind of a subset of the journalism. Well, I wonder what they teach in journalism school in the colleges right now. I mean, I wish that we could talk to a journalism professor or a senior or a graduate student in journalism so we could find out what it is they teach in journalistic school. But interesting that it takes really zero qualifications. One of the things that ironically that they advertise about, if you want to be a fact checker, a good characteristic would be to be a critical thinker. Well, everything you and I have talked about this morning regarding fact checking is, if you're a critical thinker, you'll disregard the concept of fact checkers.
That's a great point, but I do know some facts. It's a fact that you have a brain, and it's a fact that you have the tools at your fingertips. I mean, there's information everywhere. We've talked about it. We're bombarded with it. But of course, we've talked about intellectual laziness and people not given the due diligence to find out what really is the truth. And I know we've talked about the gut feeling, and I've been told, if it looks like a skunk and it acts like a skunk and it smells like a skunk, more than likely it's a skunk. So if you are getting a fact that says, here's a fact, all white people are racist. I've heard that fact check. I've seen that. And my gut feeling tells me right away to turn that person off. to stop listening.
Yeah.
And the facts go on, right? So the anonymous people are people with probably very little qualifications who are in a position to give you information with their own narrative, and maybe part of one of the largest psyops operations in the history of the modern technical digital world. And I would just say, based on what you've said, maybe we just turn the fact checkers off. Who gives a rat's rear end what these people are giving us? To be blunt.
Yeah, yeah. And we all can think of examples that stand out where the fact checker, so to speak, has been uh, uh, universally in error. uh, let's start with Hunter Biden's laptop. Remember, they're fact checkers.
55 of them or something, by the way, from our intelligence. And get this, the intelligence community.
Yeah, there's a good source for information. The CIA, gee, if I want to find the truth, that's going to be the last person I go to.
What are they operate in subterfuge. So why would we listen to anything they say?
Yeah, their whole reason for being is to create misinformation, to keep the enemy, their perceived enemy, whoever it might be this week, on their heels. Let's think of another disastrous failure. Oh, wasn't there an Office of Truth that the Biden administration is going to set up with Kamala playing a major role in that?
Yeah, the Ministry of Truth, and it's like, are you kidding me? The people that have been known to lie over and over and over again, they're going to monitor and filter information to give to us so that we have the truth. Oh my gosh. Now this is going to get into absurdity.
Well, we've been there. I'm afraid we've gone beyond absurdity and we're now into ridicule because there is no logical support that anybody would give credibility to anybody claiming to be a fact checker, particularly when they come out of the journalistic schools. If journalism was accurate, why would you need fact checkers? So you've got something is created by the journalists to demonstrate that the journalists are dishonest. It's pretty incredible of the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. I was listening to an interview with Elon Musk. I think he was on the Joe Rogan show, and he was talking about the reason why he took over X. And it was to basically put a stop to all these mind viruses that were out there. And so I would say that fact checking is a mind virus, and probably, like we mentioned a second ago, probably the largest psyops operation ever in human history. What is the truth? It's insane. It is. It's absurd.
I'm reminded of what my dad told me. My dad was as you know, he was a retired Army general, and he once told me, Dan, believe nothing of what you read and half of what you see. I always thought Dad was, in my wisdom as a teenager, thought Dad was being a little too critical on the printed word. But I remember when he made his point in the Washington Star, which was the Republican form of the Washington Post when I lived there, was a picture of a football game. And I happened to be in the photograph. And so they had to say who number 88 was. Well, they spelt my name wrong.
Wow.
So they couldn't even get 6 letters right. So I don't know. I think Dad probably was correct, but he sure made his point with that.
Yeah, some good wisdom there from your dad. And it's a fact, to become a general in the United States Army takes takes due diligence and it takes hard work. And a person that's in that type of position is probably going to give you some pretty good information. Although the generals of today, I wonder about. We got all these post name changes and, based on, how racist America was, and we've got to change these names. And again, we're back to get your facts straight. Does that make any sense to change the names of these historical posts other than the fact?
I think we could greatly use that to change the character of our military. Like, let's change Fort Bliss into Fort. Let's take care of the trans people. Let's we have opportunities to call Fort Knox Fort Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
Yeah, don't it just, and that's, it gets to the point and we just have degraded into absurdity. And I don't think it's just an American phenomenon. I think that you're seeing it in quite a few places around the world, and people have bought into these lies. And I think people that buy into lies and things that aren't truthful could be a useful idiot or useful idiots for some kind of larger picture. We've talked about that. We don't want to digress, but I would just have to say there are some absolute facts. We can make a difference, but it takes hard work, to dig into the facts. And we have a brain. We've been blessed with a brain. Your gray matters. We talk about it all the time. Time of the reason. This is the time of the reason. It's time to check the facts, make sure where you're getting your facts from are valid and credible and can be trusted. And right now, I'd say the fact that we have fact checkers mean you can't trust any of it.
Well, I think the best advice we can give, John, is be your own fact checker. There's nobody else that's going to do it to your satisfaction. So ignore.
That's a fact check, but I'm going to stop short. I'm not going to call you a fact checker. I'm going to call you a co-host with some wisdom. And I just want to, anything else to close out with that, Dan? I don't think we have to dwell on this too much. I mean,
no. I think that we've done an adequate job of destroying the concept, John.
Well, that's good. And I want to thank everybody for coming back to another shorter conversation because we don't have to dwell on it too long. Check out the facts. Be smart. Ask questions. Give it due diligence. Work your rear end off to find the truth. Because if you're going to be intellectually lazy, you're going to be wearing a mask like one of these people, and you're not going to know what the hell to do. So thanks, Dan. Catch you on the next one.
We'll see you, John.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Time of the Reason podcast show. Now it's time to think. Logic and reason work. It's only common sense. Do your part.